Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Because now I know when something happens in our lives that is unexpected, you have to go into it in order to ever have any hope of coming through it. So when you go, guess what? When you come out the other side, you grow.
Brought out more in me than I thought that I didn't even know that I had.
That has given all of us a great hope for what we can do with our own messages, our abilities to deliver, but most importantly, to deliver it in an authentic and very, very intriguing way.
Have you ever been in something or felt something where the only way you felt you could deal with it was to leave, get away? I thought that was the meaning of control. It took me 4.5 years to stop looking around the room of my life, of my journey, of my purpose, digging in cushions for a remote that never existed. Looking, re-looking, going back and upgrading, bringing in and pulling out things that do not serve you must go. Those things out in this world that are designed to bring us down, to keep us down, put their foot on our neck and whisper to us that we're never good enough, they don't whisper. They yell at us from all directions, top to bottom, bottom to top, side to side, side to side, corner to corner, and corner to corner, 365 days. When somebody asks you about yourself, don't you dare whisper. When they ask you to raise your hand, don't you dare half raise it. When they ask you something good about you, you scream it with all you have. Come on now, get up, get up. Tell me who you are. Show me who you are. Greatest truth of all, that not everyone has to remain lost. Let me hear it. Got that right. F. Friday. It is Friday. We did it, you guys. We made it. We worked it. We got here. It is Friday. It is the 23rd of September. Where in the world did the summer go? Listen, welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris, and I am so excited to be here with you as every day, Monday through Friday. Why? Well, the number one reason in my book is it's that promise that we fulfill together, the one that guarantees us, no matter what, when two or more of us comes together and we have that same spirit of service, that same spirit of agreement, even if it is to disagree, but respectfully, guess what happens? I refer to it as spiritual magic. That's right. And today is no exception. So I'm glad you're here. Oh, that's the bell of purpose. That's right. It's a real thing, not a gimmick, not just a show prop. I like to think of it more as an opportunity, a reminder, if you will, because just like that bell, when you ring it, it has you hear it, a tone. The truth also has a tone. It's called a ring of truth. When you hear the bell ring during the broadcast, I know you're busy gathering your content and doing multiple things. That's how it is nowadays, but I don't want you to miss it. So when you hear the bell, it means something's going on here. Back the car up. There's something out in the road, and it's not roadkill. It could be soul fill. Can fill you up. Take it with you. Help me at this time. Welcome to the show. You guys know her. She's here every day, Monday through Friday, has been for 6 years. She's my version of Ed McMahon. Lucy McGill, LaCuddy, Ricardo. Now, full disclaimer. If I should wander off somewhere, you know how my mind works. It's not just a senior moment, as it usually is. Today, it's because Mercury retrograde be gone. Oh my goodness. I don't know why I don't have something somewhere that reminds me when it's coming. Because every time it happens, I'm like in the midst of it, like 2 or 3 days into it, when I realize people say, oh, well, you know what that is? It's Mercury retro. Everything from the computers going crazy, weird phone calls, and that sleep pattern. Monday, you guys remember, 3 a.m. I got up. Oh, I'm going to start my workout routine early now for the winter. Thought that was it. No, 2:30, then Wednesday night. Last night, 1 a.m. But I don't care. I was productive every time. It's like this. I used to try to go back to sleep. And a friend of mine said, Lauren, don't do that. There's something trying to make its way through you in most cases when you do that. So that's how I use it. What about you guys? Put it in the comments. Has Mercury retrograde been like getting on your last nerve? When is it going to be gone? Who knows that? Sharon McQueen, I bet you do. Drop it in the comments. Listen, today, you know how I don't usually stalk people on social media. Once in a while, I will. I did. And that's how I found today's guest. And I'm so glad I did because I'd like to bring you guys value that you just might walk right past, or value based on assumptions, misconceptions, the whole lot. Today, I want to ask you right now, if I were to ask you, when was the last time you had a horrible customer service experience? Would you be able to tell me? I bet you would. Mine comes flying straight to the front of the line. What about good customer service, even great customer experience? If I asked you the question, when was the last time you experienced that? Would it be so quick to run to the front of the line? Inquiring minds want to know. That's my politically correct way of saying nosy. And that's me. So I wanted to get this guru literally in front of you, in front of us today, to talk about it. Because listen, today, entrepreneurs, we have more challenges than ever before. This new normal isn't normal at all, or is it? So when we talk about that customer service experience, I believe personally, it extends long beyond the register, far beyond the paywall. It extends to the neighbor next door, the community outside your door, etc., etc., etc. So who did I find, right? I should have asked him how he pronounces his last name. Why do I always forget that? Because I like a challenge. That's why. So I'm going to give it a shot. Hold on, I'm sounding it out. Joseph, I should say doctor because he's a Ph.D. Joseph A. Michelli. He's shaking his head back. Man, I should have made you guys promise me something if I got it right. Well, Dr. Michelli, he's an internationally sought after speaker, an author, and organizational consultant who transfers his knowledge of exceptional, now that was a senior moment, exceptional business practices in ways that develop joyful, keyword, and productive workplaces. Now, if you're a solopreneur, that's the chair you sit in, like this one. So don't think it's just for the target workers. Don't get it twisted. He focuses on customer experience. That's what he does. His insights encourage leaders and frontline workers to grow and invest passionately in all aspects of their lives. So this means when you punch out, you take this home with you, right? Now, he also is a Wall Street Journal, USA Today, Publishers Weekly, Nielsen, BookScan. Never heard of that one. I'm going to ask about that. And New York Times, now that's big. New York Times, #1 best-selling author. His latest book is entitled Stronger Through Adversity. Get this, world-class leaders share pandemic-tested lessons on thriving through the toughest challenges. Does that resonate? I thought it would. Last but not least, he's been named one of the top customer experience thought leaders for 5 consecutive years by global gurus. There's that word again, guru. And he received his master's and doctorate from the University of Southern California. And having journeyed, he says, with a close family member through a 6-year battle with breast cancer, Dr. Michelli is committed to social causes associated with curing cancer and abating world hunger. Now, I'm bringing him in, but on that note, look at this. 2 minds, right? In agreement. All next week, a 5-day series for One Vision, One Heart. We're supporting them, you guys, raising money to help this village in South Africa to do just what you just heard, abate hunger. They put the word out less than 30 days ago that they were coming over there, having no idea that as of Monday, 10,000 people, I saw the video, 10,000 people walked, crawled, drove by any means necessary to a registration center just to get on a list in hopes that when the food and supplies arrive, they might get some of them. So that's all next week, 5 straight days, raising as much as we can. So please mark your calendars. You'll find all this information on all of my socials. Please share it out and let's become another modern day stone soup story, shall we? So with that, this is Dr. Michelli's first time here. So you know what we do? We roll out the virtual red carpet, which means not only do we pour our heart into this illuminated conversation, but let's put some virtual hearts on the screen. It's our virtual way of applauding because here he comes. Welcome, won't you? Dr. Joseph Michelli. Good morning, Dr. Michelli.
That may have been the best 13 minutes of my week right there. Just watching you in action rock that opening. Thank you so much. I was honored to be here.
Oh, wow. You don't know how much that means to me because especially since I'm feeling a little loopy today, we are so excited to get you here. I had a gentleman about a year ago that was here, a similar background as yours, lots of accolades, published many times over, and he was talking about networking and how it's so different from when we work the net. Because if you're a believer, we should be fishers of men, not just clinkers of cocktail glasses and passers of business cards. And so when I read about you, you came up in my sites on LinkedIn, and I was looking, I was like, geez, this guy, I wonder why this is so important to him. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to dip over here and let you have the screen because I believe in intimacy. So you guys get to know each other. Tell everybody where you're at in the world and maybe fill in some of the things I might have missed and just bring us up to date a little bit. And I'll pop back in. So for now, it's all you.
So Lauren, at a fundamental level, I believe we're placed on this planet to serve one another, and then creating value for other people is how we have value in our own lives. So that's the fundamental belief. It probably comes from a place where you and I may share some background in terms of some hardships early on in life. For me, I was actually put in a trash can right after being born, within days of being born, by a mom who had hid my pregnancy for all 9 months. And she had a prior child out of wedlock. she hid that pregnancy for 8 months, and her Italian family had warned her never to do that again, to bring babies home without dads attached. And so here I come, another few years after that first incident, and she learned how to hide the pregnancy for its full term. She left the state of Colorado, where she was impregnated, gave birth to me in New Mexico, and then brought me back on a bus, panicked, no safe haven laws at the time, and then just put me behind the Foster Hotel in Trinidad, Colorado. And I was screaming at 3 days of age, and Officer Lujan extracted me from the trash. And I was adopted by 2 parents who told me, fundamentally, you're not on this earth to take, you're on this earth to give. And they really were stewards of giving. And I think for me, the entire journey of my life has been one where I understand that it's not about me. It's our ability to make it about other people, our ability to serve other people, our ability to take our service skills up to a professional level. I think somewhere along this whole thing, people have gotten service and being a servant confused. Right? For me, it's not about servitude. It is about service professionalism. It's about being a professional service provider. And that's my journey. And I've been so blessed, thanks to Joe and Marie Michelli, who raised me up with that kind of context.
Wow. So did you ever meet your birth mother?
I did. She's mentally retarded. She died during COVID, but she's mentally retarded, and I think probably taken advantage of in some ways in the context of those pregnancies. But yeah, I met my half sister, my older half sister as well. Wow. I think one of the truths for me is that those are biologically related people, but I was raised by 2 people who shaped who I am. And so I think of my family as my adopted family more so than my biological family.
Yeah. And wow, I had no idea that our backstories were so parallel.
Yeah.
And when I told you guys I was up at 1, I went to work on, I thought I was going to do it over the weekend, but I got it done to write a chapter for a book that they just asked me yesterday morning. And I wrote about that thing. And since the Goldcast video tells that story way back at the front end of this career, I don't really get the opportunity or feel the need to oh, my woe is me story thing. But I did write about it in a different vernacular this time. And so I find it so interesting that I'm coming out of that into this. And you guys, look, clear proof. We should never judge a book by its cover. I look at you, and I was doing the same thing people probably do when they look at me. And I tell them, no, it was not easy. I just make it look easy. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. And also, I have to preface, bring it all home with this. You guys, you hear those stories, but remember this, whatever you ascribe to be greater than yourself never makes mistakes. They're merely keeping our journeys interesting. Take that with you. So I want to ask, you heard me ask the audience the question, Doc, about when was the last time you had a great first, a horrible customer service experience. And then I said the opposite. So I found this is probably going to remind some of you of what I was mentioning in the first one. Take a look.
No, Mom's going to do the turkey. Yeah, Dad wants them brochures. So I guess we got to get those miniature marshmallows. And I'll do the crescent rolls and you do the cranberries. You know I can't cook.
I understand. I had a reservation. Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
Double bacon cheeseburger. It's for a cop.
What's that all about? You gonna spin it now?
No, I was just telling him that so he makes it good.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car.
Don't spit in that cop's burger.
Yeah, thanks.
Roger.
Oh. Yeah, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Gobble, gobble. Oh, bye-bye.
Give me a liter of cola.
A what?
A liter of cola.
Liter of cola? Do we make liter of cola?
Well, you just order a large farva. I don't want a large farva. I want a liter of cola.
I don't know what that is.
Liter is French for give me some cola before I break loose.
All right, relax.
Okay, I believe you have to fill out a form for that.
No, I'd like my money back now.
I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. You see, I have to fill out a form and, well, you ate most of it already, so...
I'm sorry. We stopped serving breakfast, but we are on the lunch menu now.
I want breakfast.
Well, you can't have it. We're not serving it.
Mister, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna kick 100% of your... Is there a problem here?
Hi, I'd like some breakfast. We stopped serving breakfast.
See, you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation.
Okay, I think we get the point here. Customer service, bad experiences. In that little montage, although it was cloaked in humor, oftentimes that's not the way either party walks away feeling. So when you see that, is that a misrepresentation of what you believe the customer experience is, or is that something different than customer service?
Well, I wish it were not representative of the world in which we live. Steve Allen once said that humor is pain plus time, right? So if you give it enough time, the pain can actually turn into something humorous. The reality is that we are facing it, and we're facing it in really negative ways now. Just the American Customer Satisfaction Index, which has been tracking customer satisfaction for decades, we're now at a 17-year low, and it's a combination of factors. Inflation drives that, people sensing that they're not getting what they paid for. We've got supply chain issues still residual. We've got staffing issues. So all of that comes to play. And at the end of it, we are kind of feeling as though we're not getting what we're paying for. For me, customer experience is broader than just the act of I had a problem, fix the problem for me. That's get it right, make it right service. But the broader issue is the emotional relationship we form with a brand. And so it is service plus emotional value. So it's the practical value of the hamburger plus the emotional value that you feel that somebody cared about you, that you belong in that establishment, that they want your business, that they look forward to seeing you, that they've taken care of all the sensory elements. I mean, as an entertainer, you know the importance of thinking about sights and sounds and just the visual things you do on the show, the way you keep things moving. All of that is part of the experience. And it goes beyond just, did I get you the product you asked for at price? And did I fix it if it broke?
Absolutely. Now, what about this? You know, remember that old saying? I don't know if anybody still believes it holds any water, but what I refer to as the customer is always right. And, you know, that's why I think I lasted not even a whole shift when I was on what Whirlpool referred to as the cool line, where people would call in, my turkey is trapped in the oven, help me, you know. And that job wasn't as bad as my first telemarketing job, where people would call me names and hang up, and I got fired because I called them back and hung up on them. So my point here is this. Let's go back to, is the customer always right? And if so, how do you get there? That's why I don't work for other people. How do you get there and keep your job? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that saying was quoted by Cesar Ritz, and I actually wrote a book about the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, which bears his name. Cesar Ritz was wrong. The customer isn't always right, but they're always the customer. And I think when you appreciate that we are in the business, and now I'm stealing from Peter Drucker. So Drucker said we're in business essentially not to create a profit. We're in business to create a customer. And it's through customers that profits come. So we need to be very respectful of the fact that if we have our lights on and we're able to feed our family, it's probably thanks to a customer. And so we need to respect the fact that customers choose us in the relationship. We can't tolerate certain behaviors because the cost of customers mistreating your team members is that you lose the team members you need to treat other customers. So the customer isn't always right. And even at the Ritz-Carlton, they believe that they are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. Now that makes more sense to me. If a customer doesn't treat the lady or gentleman of the Ritz-Carlton as if they are a lady or gentleman, then that customer is asked to comport their behavior to that of a lady or gentleman. And if they fail to do so and continue to treat the employee like trash, we are going to ask them to go to the Four Seasons Hotel instead of continue to purchase from the Ritz-Carlton. And I think that's where we miss it sometimes. You know, we need to be very patient. We need to try to understand the backstory of customers. We need to try to help them get their needs met. But at some point, if they cross that line, then we need to invite them to work with someone else.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, there are people, I'm sure, sitting out there watching who struggle with, it's difficult. It's a totally different world today than it was prior to the arrival of COVID. And customer service today is, like, in a lot of places non-existent because the power shift that has happened with people who, nobody, well, I don't know, where I'm going. Everybody, all of a sudden we saw signs everywhere. Help wanted, help wanted, help. Nobody wants to work. No, they can get, it's easier. They make more money sitting at home, on and on and on. And you see people, I'll tell you how I got through that when it first started. I watched I could always tell who the manager was, because that was the one, even though she would turn around to us, at the counter and some other stuff, some of them, the way they treated the people back there, because they were overworked, understaffed, probably undertrained, underappreciated, on and on and on. But I didn't like that she was treating me differently. It felt inauthentic. And it made me actually want to stand up for the people doing the harder work in my eyes. All of a sudden, what is that? What is that ability, if that's what you want to call it, that we get? I think, okay, let's put it this way. There are choices when we're on the customer side as far as why we won't come back, what will make us come back. Does one and done, mess up one time and I'm done messing with you, or what? Let me ask you, is it still the product that keeps us coming back, or is it the lack of choices?
Well, I think in certain circumstances, the market is kind of sewed up. I continue to fly certain airlines just because I have no other choice. But it's not like I choose airlines very much.
Let me guess, Spirit?
I'm not saying any names. But, if to kind of go back, I just want to, it kind of blends a couple of topics you've had earlier. And one is that I had dinner last night at a restaurant in my hometown, which is St. Petersburg, Florida, at a restaurant called Savillon. And I know the owner, Chris. I watched Chris yesterday when a customer accidentally spilled water on the floor. I watched Chris be the one who worked with the customer and say, it's okay, this happens, no worries. He stood there, waited for, he asked the staff member to go get the mop. When the mopping had been done, he had a piece of paper and he was wiping the floor. I think that is what it takes to be great as a leader, as a human being. It's putting your cart back at the supermarket. It is the authentic actions of service to one another, not just because you're customer facing and you're a moment of truth with a customer, because if you turn around and you mistreat your employee in the next breath, thinking the customer didn't see that, all of that fakey stuff you just did with the customer just goes by the wayside. And really that environment isn't sustainable anyway. Just because you looked really good to me, even if I didn't catch you mistreating your employee, over time, you're not going to be able to keep employees. I'm optimistic. I tend to believe most people wake up in the morning and want to make the world a better place. That's what I tend to believe. I think some people have been beaten down and have lost their sense that they can do that. But great leaders help people find that in them. That's what you do every single day in your mission on behalf of people. And I think, when I look at service professionals and servant leaders, they're really the ones saying, hey, I am here to serve and I want to help you find the power of serving. You want to become wealthy in America? Serve people well. Don't think about being served. It's in the serving that you become served. So I say my line is service serves us, right? Like if we serve well, it serves us back.
That's absolutely right. And I just had a flashback to last week when I was at the grocery store, and I don't know what it is. I've gotten I've grown to the place where when I'm personally receiving bad service, I'll address it, but just in a way to get through it and get it, because it's so common now. But when it's that underdog thing, for instance, there was a manager who came over in the grocery store line because I had wine. So, and the girl checking me out was a high schooler. and or clearly underage. And so she had to call 21 on 5. I got a 21 on 5. And so she came over. So she helped her bag, this manager. And I had a bunch of flowers, and the girl rang them up, right? But the woman said, you missed one. And I watched the beeps and I watched the screen. So I said, no, she didn't. Right. So anyway, she said, add another one. So she did. And then when we got to the thing and she printed it up, the girl was right. So then the woman gets mad at the girl because she has to go over and void it and do the whole thing over again. And so my cart was up where I am, putting in my cart and stuff. And she goes, move your cart down here. Instantly. It was like I turned into Dr. Jekyll from Mr. Hyde, because I turned around, I was like, you move it. You know, I was like, clearly you have forgotten who's wearing the jewel smock. It is not me. And I'm not.
That's first off, I'm still reeling that you're over 21. I'm having to get through that. But now that I'm working that part done, for me, the key, and I've learned it probably over time, because I think I used to think service was being a doormat in sort of ways. I mean, I used to think that it was about putting yourself out and taking another one and, just being bigger than and all that stuff. I've really grown, I think, over my career to appreciate that it takes two things to be really great at service. One, it takes compassion. You really do need to think about what are the needs of the other person. You got to be the space, but you also have to have assertiveness, because that's where that line is. We're talking about the ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen. That's where the line is, which is to say, I have needs. And while I am here to put your needs as a primary part of this relationship for now, I'm not going to sacrifice myself and bite my lip in ways that are, hurtful to me. So the balance is always finding to collaborate with one another. It's always a balance of being assertive, setting limits on things, as well as being compassionate and seeking to alleviate the pain or suffering or meet the need of the person with you.
And basically, it sounds from both sides of the table, setting boundaries.
Yeah.
How far you'll go. Now, I want to ask, because I want to warm it up, because we're going to go to break here in a little bit. But when we come back, I really want to address this new book, because I feel there are some jewels, some nuggets in there for all of us, those who go out into the workforce, as well as those of us who are the workforce within our own brands, because of COVID and all the different things, because a lot of us have become a little bit bitter without even realizing it in a lot of cases. So I'd like to get into that. The title of the book, Stronger Through Adversity. World-class leaders share pandemic-tested lessons on thriving during the toughest challenges. So ponder that. You guys get your questions, your comments ready, and we'll be right back. But in the meantime, remember, this is a great opportunity to share the broadcast out. Don't you dare go away. Doc will be right back in just a moment. Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? Seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started, one story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link. Well, there you are. Welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm Lauren Michaels Harris. And before we get the great Dr. Joseph Michelli back in, I wanted to remind you about a great choice I made about 2 years ago. Great big shifts in my life from a little choice. I chose to get rid of the Diet Coke and replace it with something that serves me. V8. It's all vegetable. And remember, it used to only have 2 servings of vegetables. And I don't know how they did it because the can is still the same size. But now it has 2.5. 2.5 servings of vegetables, only 60 calories in one of these little babies. And here's the best part. Easy peasy to find. Head down the juice aisle at your local grocer and try it. You don't want to wait until you say, I could have had a V8. get yours today. Now, Dr. Michelli is back. Doc, before the break, welcome back. I was mentioning your book, but before we go into the book, I want to ask you this. Do you think when we started working from home when COVID hit, all of a sudden we don't have to get dressed up. We don't have to, all the things we did to prep for our day out there, even working for myself. I still had meetings and Rotary and had to get dressed up. I have not been to the dry cleaners in 3 years. And I lived in that place, we're wearing shorts or underwear underneath the table. Like right now, I'm completely naked from the waist down. I'm kidding. I'm not. But remember what I'm saying, when we were able to loosen the practice of becoming who we presented ourselves to the world as through work, did we loosen a lot of other things unknowingly?
It's a complicated question, right? I mean, in some ways we return to purpose, right? Is all this stuff really all that important? A lot of the things that we did out of habit, and we really hadn't thought our way through them. And I think now, we're really trying to make decisions about what matters. But I do think there is an opportunity the big loss for me is that human interaction. Whether or not we dressed up for it or not, it's a kind of a secondary consideration of mine. But I do think human beings need to be in the presence of human beings. And we were able to withstand that for a period of time because of necessity. And thank God for technology, because we were able to maintain some semblance of human interaction, but it's two-dimensional. It certainly doesn't have what we're accustomed to as century-long beings in community.
Yeah.
So for me, the key is how do we get back out there in safe ways, so that we are not isolating ourselves, because we see the depression, we see the anxiety, we see the complications that come from it. So balancing physical safety with social interaction is, I think, essential. And a lot of businesses are trying to figure out, how do we strike that right balance? We want to support virtual work. We understand the life benefits that come to people from doing that. It's easier to take care of your kids. You don't need some of the other things to happen. But at the same time, are you a part of a team? Do you feel that same team vibe when all of your interactions are virtual? So I think it's an exciting time for leaders to try to navigate that with the aid of technology. Everything comes down to this for me. I'll just be really straightforward.
Yeah.
Use your word, transparent. For me, it all comes down to being human powered and technology aided. Everything we do should be human powered and technology aided. We should use our technology tools, in service. Those repetitive tasks that nobody wants to do, let's just make them self-service, right? And then the other tasks where people can add value through their humanity, through their excitement to see us, through their knowledge, then let's have people behind those to support those functions. So whether that's, community and work or our communities around us, I think we need to always use our technology, but keep people at the center of the interaction.
That's exactly right. I had a thing this week, which was a real challenge, trying to book our Christmas vacation at our condo in Mexico. And the site was down, and if you don't use your points, you're going to lose them. And I couldn't get anybody in the phone number. So I had to send a threatening email. But when it finally worked its way out, about 48 hours later, when we were finished, I told the supervisor, well, I'm going to send that original person, their boss, a follow-up email about how well you've handled this. And he said, oh, no, you don't, that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. But I believe it's just as important. If I can bitch and moan about something on the front end, when it gets fixed, I have a responsibility, not an obligation, but a responsibility to go back and say something good or positive about how it was worked out, if it was worked out, when it is worked out. What do you say to that? And then let's jump.
Well, let me pretend that I'm the person who's working for that resort. And the first thing I would say to you is, we failed you. Our technology should have worked. And when it did not, we should have put a person in front of you who could have solved it for you readily. For that, I am sorry. All right, that's the beginning. And then I think once they've done the service recovery that fixed it for you, which they did, I think that's an amazing thing, because most brands don't. They just make it worse. I have a friend who says what starts bad normally gets worse. Well, that's the way it is in a lot of customer service, right? But these people somehow did service recovery effectively, so that you're no longer dissatisfied. You're actually in a positive, upbeat space with them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think every brand has to understand that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have your technology not work at times. You're going to have a person who fails in an interaction with a customer. That's all part and parcel to the complexity of human interaction. But we should be able to recover from that and bring our relationship back to wholeness so that somebody is talking to their audience, their august audience, about the success of the interaction.
Yes. Because I would tell you what did it for me, and it calmed me down. It talked me off the ledge 50% through the fix it process when, because I had realized, but hadn't brought it up yet, that because of that same reason, when I looked at my husband's notes, because he does all the books and stuff, that during COVID, we couldn't get through to roll our points over. So there are 5,000 points missing. And before I could bring it, goes, so I finally brought it up. Yeah. And what about those points during COVID? I'm like, got him. Now he goes, oh, I've already taken the liberty of restoring those points, which now give you a total of, but I was like, really? From then on, I was putty.
Yes, and that's exactly where the power is, right? I mean, service recovery is admitting the fault, fixing the problem to the customer satisfaction, and then doing a little bit more, just a little bit more. And that little bit more isn't really costing them anything in the grand scheme of things relative to what they would lose if you are no longer a lifelong customer.
Got that right.
Lifelong customer value is so often not calculated by business owners. They don't understand. Let me give you a simple example. If I go to my supermarket, let's say I just moved into this neighborhood and I started a relationship with the supermarket here versus the supermarket over there. Once I go there, let's say that I spend $250 a month, which is really conservative, but let's just pretend that's all.
I was going to say,
the average person is going to stay. So the average person is going to stay in their residence for 4 years. So they got $250 a month times 12 times 4, right, of revenue that they could reasonably expect. So when I bring my milk back because it's sour tomorrow, they should be able to make a calculation of, should we take it without hassle or should we hassle this guy about the milk? Yeah. And I think that's how you make those decisions. And when they have my card and they scan me on the way out and they see that I'm spending a whole bunch more than the average $250 a month or whatever it is, now they can make some calculations to give me even a little more rope because the loss side of the lifetime customer value is greater. So I just think that good brands, good leaders, entrepreneurs, they think about lifetime value of that customer and they make service recovery decisions like the points restored based on how much they're likely to lose if that customer churns. And that doesn't even go into how many people you tell who they were otherwise able to bring in.
Because we love to call, don't go over there anymore. Let me tell you what they, right. Well, the review system, that's a real threat. You might as well pull a gun on somebody, and you just wait. When I get on Yelp, you'll see, And so the new book, Stronger Through Adversity, I love it. World-class leaders share pandemic-tested lessons on thriving during the toughest challenges. Now, where did you go to find these leaders? And when you got there, what'd they say?
So it was in the middle of COVID. I was supposed to be doing a book about Godiva chocolate, a company that I'd worked for and consulted for over the years. And I was ready to go to, the manufacturing plant. Everything got locked down. It was pretty clear that book wasn't happening, even though I had a contract to do it. I was also consulting for all kinds of brands at the time. We didn't know what we were doing. We were all just trying to figure out how do we keep customers. And I saw leaders just doing all kinds of things, some micromanaging, some panicking. So I was really talking to leaders about how were they trying to navigate these times? What was the template, the map in their head?
Right.
And based on my own clients and then my clients talking to their friends, I had 140 plus leaders who participated. And these are the CEO of Verizon, for example, the CEO, that's Hans Vestberg, or the CEO of Target, Brian Cornell, presidents of Microsoft, you name it. It was an amazing cross section, having written books about Starbucks and Mercedes-Benz, all those
right.
things, obviously.
Airbnb, the list goes on and on.
All those people were in the book too, because I was talking to leaders that I'd worked with over my career. Bottom line, it was pretty interesting. Lots of principles came out in leadership through this time. Things like when the map and the terrain don't match up, always follow the terrain. In other words, even though you think the map tells you to do something, just pay attention to what's happening in real time in front of you and make micro recalculations based on that. Trust your ability to perceive and adjust as quickly as possible to the real-time data, albeit the real-time data wasn't all that good at various times. But still put your hands to the earth, listen attentively, intuit passionately, and you're going to get through this. So we got lessons like that. There were some really amazing lessons that we learned from horse herds in terms of whether you were leading from the front, leading from the middle of the pack, or leading from the back. It's just a fascinating book, thanks to the wisdom of 140 very gracious people who took the time to share.
So is there any one lesson?
Yeah, it's a lesson, Lauren, you've been teaching for a long time. It's about legacy. The pandemic was a great opportunity for people to really think about what was the lasting impact they're going to have, because it's one of the most important times in history. What they do in these times are going to really shape the way they are viewed and the lasting impact of their life. So, one of the key principles I've communicated in many of my books is create a leadership legacy. Define what you want to be known for. John Maxwell says we're going to be remembered, an entire life is going to be remembered in one sentence. So I say, let's write it now. Let's just put that sentence out there to the universe. That this is what we want our impact to be. And let's publish that to someone we trust and love, who will hold us accountable to it. Let's regularly check in with them to see whether or not we're living into our legacy or not. And it is through that process that we really create lasting social impact. And so I think you just really heard it in the pandemic. This time was the crucible of leadership. And lots of the most effective leaders really thought about, what do I want to walk out of this? How do I want to walk out of this better than we came into it? Because this is a huge loss of human life, productivity. How do we come out of this better than we were before we entered it?
Exactly, because it was based on so many things that were out of our control. And that's another aspect. When people feel like they don't have any choices, there's no control. Let's talk. We had about 10 minutes. Let's talk about how, when people think, well, I don't make the rules, or a customer says something to them and go, well, I'm just a fill in the blank. Like, don't yell at me. I'm just and then you go to a place, or you have an experience with a brand or a business where they go out of their way. Like at my grocery store, I can ask any of those kids, hey, where'd you guys move the chocolate chips? And they'll come down off a ladder or stop whatever they're doing, stocking, and walk me all the way over to where it is, no matter where it is in the store. And I always feel guilty, like, you don't have to stop what you do. Oh, no. And I can sense the difference, whether it is sincere or it's because they have to. So my question really is, how do we show up wherever it is we make our money every day as our best self? And how do we leave those things that do not serve us and will be waiting for us when we punch out at the door? How do we leave them at the door so that we don't dump them? That saying that says, make sure you don't bleed all over the people who didn't cut you.
That's a great line. I gotta let me write that one down.
Thank you. That's one of my memes that I just
I'm dinging my bell. I'm dinging my bell right now.
Thank you.
Hold on. I don't have I like your drink choice, but
thank
I'll
you.
Ding my bell. Wow. First off, I think James Lincoln Collier wrote a book many, many years ago. It was called The Rise of Selfishness in America. And I thought it was a pretty profound book. It was kind of saying we were spending more on porn than we were on social causes, or, things like that. That was kind of the place this book was going.
Yeah.
And he just did all these analyses of how our choices were reflecting selfishness instead of otherness. And that's my word. I use the word otherness. It's made up, but I believe if selfishness is the focus on self, otherness should be focused on others. I think there are people whose parents continue to raise them to believe that it's not about them. The world is not built for them. My mama made it really clear. This world was not made to make you happy, right? Like, your job was to make the world happy. And if you did that, you would be happy. So your job was to go out there and do things in the world that was going to make people better. And if you did that, then they were going to make you better. They were going to take you along with them. which has been my story. Like, it's the whole thing. There's nothing else. So I think there's been parents who continue to educate people to that. I think there are leaders who continue to help people at your supermarket say, first, find people who could potentially listen to that message, who have the potential to live into that message. And then they just groom them and nurture them and help them see that and tell the wow stories and show them that they have impact in the world from getting off that. When they get off of that ladder, they have impact for that woman who, is desperately searching for something. You mattered today. And I think the more we help people do that, the better it is. I think we're working against a very tough stream of social media. I want to be famous for doing virtually nothing. But I tend to believe, I'm still a long game believer that service will win. People who serve well win in the end. The greatest leaders I've ever run into. And let me just say this, I need to say this as a caveat. My book had 140 leaders. They had leaders of businesses, nonprofits, and first responders. That's who I interviewed. I interviewed 0 politicians. And I'm not talking about Democrats or Republicans right now. I am talking about leaders are not self-serving. Leaders are focused on those they serve. And if we figure that out, we become entrusted and people give us the privilege of leading. So anyway, I go on, but I think to answer your question, we're going against some tough headwinds, but I still believe that humans want to serve well.
I agree. I wonder what went through your mind the first time you watched an episode of Undercover Boss. And, because those are your clients, those huge corporate entities. And how did that make you feel when you saw that was important enough? Because you got some dumb shows. I know, not to take anything away, but The Masked Singer and all. I'm like, come on now, for real, but Undercover Boss.
I loved it. I loved it because I think what happens is we lose empathy for the front line the farther we go up the corporate ladder as a rule. So I love that there was a walk in the shoes of your team member and get to know them and realize that there is your power source. At Starbucks, I worked with them. I wrote 2 books about Starbucks, and we have a process called the customer walk, and team members literally walk from the parking lot. 1 per shift is rotated to do this. It may or may not be happening right now, but during my days in consultation with them, it was. You'd walk from the parking lot as if you were a customer. You'd stand in line with the customer. You'd see what the customer is seeing. You'd hear what the customer is hearing. You'd see the smudges on that side of the glass on the pastry case that you can't see when you're on the other side of the pastry to the glass. And the point of it is that until we actually put ourselves in the position of the people we're trying to serve, we can't serve them. And so Undercover Boss for me was just putting yourself in the position of the employee.
Yeah. Let's make this topic your Jerry Springer moment, if you will, your final thought. It was the final thought in your bio. And I love that because it's what you left us with to take. It was the closest to me at the end of your bio, and it was abating world hunger. And that is something near and dear to my heart. And I said, well, wow, that's what I'm working next week, 5 days, just to help someone do that. Talk about, if you could, how did that become such a passion for you? And tell us some of the places you are able to lend your voice to help.
Yeah, so I was clowning with Patch Adams, the guy who was played by Robin Williams in the movie. We were clowning in China at the time, and you're seeing kids in rural literally, yeah. And we would see kids in rural China eating anything green, like we'd call it a weed here in the United States, but it was just something of sustenance. And to me, that was horrific that happened. So that's kind of when the awareness happened for me. Since then, I've traveled to South Africa. I've been to the informal settlements. I've seen people who live in shanty huts, who are just doing anything they can to survive. I've seen child-led households where their parents had died from AIDS. And so here we've got a 14-year-old raising his 6-year-old brother or sister.
You've seen the situation in South Africa?
Absolutely. In the informal settlements, just outside of Johannesburg. And I know your cause for One Vision, One Heart's coming up next week. I just want to tell people, please, you want to live a servant's heart, you want to do something, take some of the wealth and the bounty of your life. I know it's tough times, but find a way to make a contribution to this particular cause, because we have no idea how we're all yoked together in this planet, and these folks need you desperately. So thanks for leading that mission, Dr. Long.
And thank you so much for saying that, because it was confirmation. Because, you know, I don't ever want that mindset where it's like, well, that's somebody else's job. Oh, how big of a bite will we be able to take to help this situation? But I do believe in the stone soup approach, where you bring whatever it is you can. In the Bible, it's the widow's mite story. And I just want people to realize, no matter where you find yourself in life, no matter where you find yourself from moment to moment, if you want to get from point A to point B, well, guess what? Point A is where you're at. Point B is the moment right after where you're at. And so if you just show up, a little bit of something will always benefit more than a whole lot of nothing. So I want to thank you. I want you guys, I've dropped the links inside the chat so that you can find it, use it, and get over and check out all these wonderful books. Most likely you'll find a lot of your favorite brands in there, and hopefully understand why they are your favorite brand and how they keep you there. So, Dr. Michelli, it is such an honor. And I just want to say, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, and for all of us here at E360 Television, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to, come and pour into us. It's really special. Thank you.
God bless you, Dr. Lauren, and keep making the world a better place.
Absolutely. You guys, he was talking to you just now, as well as myself. I want you to get out there today and every day. Be the best version of yourself. That's the best place to start. And one day, I have a feeling we're all going to say it was a great place to end. I'll see you Monday morning, God willing, right out front on the front porch as we together create history, a unique moment in time, a beautiful customer experience, but even more important, a beautiful human experience right here on Bathrobe Moments. Be the blessing you'd like to see. Thanks again. I'll see you guys Monday. Bye-bye now.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How explicit do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Boy, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind. But you